If you go to the doctor and he says, hey, you know what, you should fast more often. You should not eat as often. You should have less meals, raise your insulin less, and that'll help prevent injuries. Now, that would inevitably hurt the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, and many more, right? So there's no money in the establishment telling you that you should fast.
So fasting, yeah, it's a complete game changer. It really goes to work. There's so many different health benefits, but it goes to work on the body, but then the spirit, right? To me, it's a really, once you get into it, you get so much more in tune with that stuff, your spirit and your mind and your thoughts around it. And it challenges you in a really good way. And it will never be, I don't think, in our lifetime, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think it'll be mainstream just because of the facts that you mentioned. And I believe there's a conspiracy against fasting. Right? This used to be a very popular thing even a couple hundred years ago. Any animal, the way they heal themselves is they fast for however long they need to, and they heal. It's nature's, it's God's put it within us.
All right, Michael Steven here with good friend Kyle Newell. Kyle is a gym owner here in New Jersey. He owns Newell Strength. He's been running that for over a decade now, and happy to have him on the show. Good morning, Kyle.
Morning, Michael. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this. Excited for your stuff you're working on, man.
So just kind of want to have a conversation, just like we would when we were working out, doing,
Sure.
6-7 minute sets of squats. Before and after that, of course. So, Kyle, I came across you 2 years ago, in about July of 2020. I saw you on Facebook, and, you had a lot to say about the world and about working out. But really, what attracted me most to you and your message was you're talking about fatherhood. So maybe just kind of like expand on that and tell me what made you kind of write that the way you did on Facebook, and what kind of made your mind go in that direction?
As far as the fatherhood stuff?
Yeah.
So we run the Rip Dads at the gym. And then, when you have your first child, you're kind of lost. You feel lost. There's no manual for it. I was fortunate to have, my dad was very active in our life when we were growing up. But then I realized, a lot of the stuff I share, right, and I think I've told you this on Facebook, it's just stuff that I struggle with. So then I try to figure it out, and then I share what's going on. But I think, especially at these times, what's going on, a big problem is there's not enough fathers in the homes, and there's not enough, even if men are in the home, they're not being a father to their family, right? The father is it's paternal, right? The pattern, it's what the family is patterned after. And if you look at the way the media and the left, the extreme left wants it, they don't want fathers in the homes. It's all about breaking that down. But I think that's a big part of how we've gotten into this situation is there's a lack of fathers. And if you look at what's happened in the African-American community since the 60s, it's been basically 72% of their homes have no fathers. Right. So this is a problem. Tony Dungy just spoke about it down in Florida. It's a problem, and you can see it in all cultures, but especially in the African-American community, it's a glaring problem when you don't have a father in the home. Right. And that was done very systematically, I believe, by the government.
Yeah, that's I concur with that. I've kind of realized that over the last few years, trying to figure out how it happened, why it happened, again, like across all communities. But, I struggled with my own personal fatherhood and realizing, hey, when is the right time for me to step up and say something? And just little things like, what's going on in the schools right now. I noticed a lot of mothers going out there and saying things and leading the charge, and which I thought was fantastic. But I just felt like, hey, we need this masculine energy to match that. You know, there's this yin and the yang of relationships, and with just, you need that masculine energy. You need that, you know, women can lead, but people like us, I believe that we're born to be leaders. And sometimes you got to recognize when the right time in history is to step up. And I believe that and that's kind of what I've been doing lately. And this is part of it, but also just, you know, board of ed meetings. It's like, hey, we can coach, we can make money, but sometimes a man needs to say, hey, no, I got to bring my energy to the world at a small level. And then when you help it on a small level, if everyone did that, it translates to a much larger level.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Man has to be the pillar of the community. You know, the fathers of the community have to be the pillars of the community. It's the way it used to be, and that's the way it has to be if you want to live in a free, democratic society.
Yep. And that's, I don't know. It's just, it's been hard for me to make that realization. Sometimes I think, you know, hope is a beautiful thing, and you want to just kind of like, oh, yeah, you see it. But once you see things and you really understand things for what they are, you got to take action. And that's what I'm about. I'm about like being realistic, but being positive. Like, what are the nuts and bolts? How can we move forward? So, and I think that, you know, fathers especially need to lead by example. I have struggled with that in the past. I believe that I've led, but sometimes maybe a little too verbally, and sometimes a little like, hey, I'm just going to go work out. I'm going to show my daughter that, hey, it's time to work out. I said, I'm going to work out for an hour today. I'm going to go do it. You're going to see me do it. And then eventually she'll start doing it. And that's actually happened, you know, just little things like that. And I don't know, why don't we talk about your gym? Because I'm somebody who's trying to start this platform, this podcast. I know I'm really excited about it. I have the energy for it. I know that's my mission as a man, but when did you recognize that what your mission was?
Yeah, the initial mission, that's a great question, was way back when I was in high school. I got hooked, you know, about my junior year. I'd ordered a book I still have upstairs to a magazine, a bodybuilding magazine about training. It's big beyond belief. And I just got really into it, man, probably for confidence reasons, you know, be more confident. I really wanted to put on muscle. I was really, it just got the bug. I went to school. I went to Delaware. The workouts I was doing then are still like the workouts we do now at the gyms, way ahead of their time. And, you know, you go through college, and I worked with Rutgers football strength and conditioning, did some natural bodybuilding shows, went back to school for phys ed. But I knew that it was in the physical culture that I wanted to be, you know, I always wanted to coach people. And then it's transitioned right after that. It just kept growing where I'm still very passionate about the training, but I don't do it that often anymore myself. So, you know, my team does that, but it's about really transforming people's lives, inspiring people to transform their lives. And, you know, physical training is just, to me, one of the vehicles that you can use for that. And I think it's a key vehicle. I think you access the mind and the spirit through the body. So it started, I mean, I didn't know it when it started, but that's really, you know, I knew it was something I was extremely passionate about, something that I would just, you know, I studied for thousands of hours on this stuff, self-study and hiring coaches and this type of stuff. So I was fortunate to be pretty clear early on, but it evolves. Right now, there's other stuff I'm interested in, but it all goes back to that mission statement of inspiring people to transform their lives.
Right. Yeah. I would say that I'm still developing my mission. But that, you know, you've helped inspire me to figure out what it is. And I think my mission is to help build communities, to, you know, use my voice, use my intellect and knowledge to inspire other people to do the same. You know, so the more I have conversations with you, the more I connect you with other people that feel the way we feel, but also aren't afraid to stand up and just speak about it in a calm, respectful, intelligent manner. Not with this low frequency, not with the temper, not with tons of curse words, just speak your mind, and, know who you are. And I think most people don't know who they are, first off. Second off, your way of training, it's funny. I was kind of getting there, but, then I joined your gym and I came up with a term. I said it the other day, MBA, meathead bodybuilding athlete. Okay. Because you got the meathead style, where you do like 3-4 different compound exercises. You could just do 5 rounds of that, like we did outside in 2020. And man, you're done. There's no reason to go any further. Like, all right, that's a complete workout. But you got to be a bodybuilder at the same time. You need your hypertrophy, 8 to 15 reps, and then you got to do your athletics, band workouts, ladder drills, box jumps, all the quick twitch movements, a lot of the movements that people don't go to the average gym and do these, these hip movements that, you'll spend 30 minutes focused on, So I guess what kind of brought you, like, who did you speak with? Like, what kind of like research did you do to kind of get into the bodybuilding forum?
In the bodybuilding specifically?
Yeah, just working out, like, because again, me and you I joke about this with you. It's like, Kyle, man, you built your muscle already. Like, I'm trying to build my muscle. You already got that work done when you were like, 15 to 30, and now it's like, now you're just maintaining. Whereas I'm like, no, I got to make up for lost time. I didn't skip leg day, but I was playing too much ball and I wasn't hitting the heavy squats and deadlifts. And now I'm trying to, like, it's last call. I got to do it before I get, too old, So just talk about maybe like how you built your muscle, like, what method you went to and, like how you researched that.
Yeah. So my initial, as I was saying, my initial love really came, we started training because of sports, but then I got really into the bodybuilding magazines. I would devour those things and read about what those guys were doing. But I knew, there was always, you weren't sure if that was the truth, what they were doing. Obviously at that time, as a kid, these guys are using a lot of drugs and whatnot. So that changes things. But I knew from that, right, it's about the hormones. And that first book that I mentioned that I ordered was really about the hormonal, what goes on with the hormones of the body when you train full body, things of that nature. But also you need a lot of time under tension if you want to grow, but you need the strength base. So I would experiment in the gyms. I would spend hours in the gyms, even at that age. And then I would physically, since I was a senior in high school, or actually junior, I would force myself to eat because I knew that you had to eat to have the nutrients, right? So different than the fasting I do now, but I knew that the nutrients were key. And the thing with putting muscle on, I believe that's harder than losing body fat because your body doesn't necessarily want to do that. So when I was real serious about it, and many times it happened, not intentionally, I would eat until I threw up because I would just force myself, right? So I always had that mindset that I was going to figure it out with the body. And then, going through college, experimenting, I had some good professors that, really shined a light on, looking back on one in particular. I remember when he told us, but time under tension. Okay. So you got to keep the muscular in the body under tension for anywhere 40 to 70 seconds at least in that range for a set, which is very hard to do for most people because mentally it's very taxing. But then I would experiment and then I got into bodybuilding. So Rutgers football. So my training style really came full body. Then Rutgers football, working with JB, who's the strength coach there again, a good buddy of mine. Seeing how he would train the football players. I was fresh, coming out of my senior year of college. And I would kind of blend it, right? The bodybuilding and the athletic. I would blend it. And then I came across in 2007 or 8, Scott Abel, who was the first coach I hired to coach me. And he had a very similar philosophy, really into the mind, body, spirit, but very similar training philosophy. And then that was it. It was like the tinderbox had been lit, and I just took it and ran with it full body and experiment with these movements and really thinking outside the box. And as far as putting on the muscle, it was a lot of really tough workouts that, when people used to come when I was competing, I had many guys that would come, it happened at least 3 or 4 times, come train legs with me. They'd want to train legs. I was always, my legs were always my strong point. So, okay, show up. And I didn't have any agenda. It was what they were going to experience. So just jump in, here we go. And within the first set or 2, after we warmed up, these guys were puking just because of that. And that's how I used to train pretty much every day. And then legs twice a week, I would do that. I mean, we would do 25 sets of squats, me and the Wolverine. We would be there for 3 hours. 225 on the bar, but you're doing 25 sets of 15 reps, 15 to 20 reps. We'd even go up to 315, and we would just stay there and squat in the corner. The point where you're hurting so bad, but that's really what it would take. And then, so I learned all this stuff, right? I went through it, as you said, and it takes a lot of work to put some muscle on, it's a stress response, but that's what has to be done.
All right. Next Friday, me, you, and Wolverine. Let's go.
He was there this morning, man. We did a replacement, me, him, and Mikey, of we didn't do the squats. We did 200 yards of lunges, which is probably harder. Probably took us 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. I like some of the stuff we did in 2020, like, pulling the sleds and dragging the sleds and prowlers. Yeah. I'll do that in the Flemington gym, and they'll be like, "Hey, where'd you get that from?" That's cool. I'm like, got it from Kyle himself, man. I just, I love those. I love the full body workouts because you can hit muscles other days of the week, and then they hit that full body in between where you're just hitting everything, but you're not focusing on one.
Yeah.
You could still, it'll be recovered enough to do it later in the week.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly.
But that's what I'm missing. Like, I like the, just go there and do those, 15, 20 sets of the compound exercises, even like, the compound exercises, like drop sets, just like your last set, just you doing, let's just say you're deadlifting 315, drop it to 275, drop it to 225, drop it to 135. Do you like that? I don't know. I started doing that, but just as like a killer, it's like, hey, just as long as you're doing it right, it's a great burner for your whole body.
Yeah. Anything that you can do, and that's bodybuilders, obviously, coming from that world, that's what they do. So I learned a lot just being in that culture, and drop sets and pyramid sets, and giant sets. And so you take what was useful from them. But you got to realize bodybuilding is a sport, right? Most people shouldn't be training body part specific, but we can mix it in there. We could do that. And then realizing, again, it's about the hormones. Muscle growth is more systemic. It's not localized. So you want to get that, work, really, really train the body, get a high growth hormone output, which comes from a high lactic acid output, which comes from being under tension for a long time. So, if you could do a drop set and stay under tension a lot longer, that's a great thing.
Yeah. I'm currently right now struggling with, it's kind of like life. You need to have a schedule. You need to have balance. And I find myself I'm always getting to the gym, 3-4 days a week minimum. Some days 2, some days, some weeks 6, but I'm not on a specific program. And I do believe that that's holding me back a little bit. I think I need to just kind of reset, stretch out a little bit, get my body right, and then just hit a program where you can measure your strength each, month by month. So you go on like a 3-month program where, again, you blend, because like you said, it's hard to blend, the bodybuilding, the athletics, like, I play basketball and softball. I want to stay quick, and knock on wood, I haven't been hurt. I've never popped a hammy. I've never popped a calf. I don't know how. It's just, I think it's because I'm active. And some guys are stretched out, but they don't work out. So it's like, they're stretched, they're flexible, but they don't have the mobility, and they don't have the tendons and the joints around there are not used to moving. So do you agree with that? Like, should I basically just work on like a certain type of program to kind of measure your strength?
So you're talking about just strength?
I'm talking about strength and agility at the same time, or do you kind of got to focus on one?
Well, so strength is the foundation. That's the strength. If you look at athletic quality, strength is your cup. So the more strength you have, the more qualities you can fit in there. So as far as focusing on strength, we could put you on like a Jim Wendler 5-through-1 program where it's very easy to measure what you're doing week by week. So I can get you out of that, no problem. And it's good because as we get older, you're not maxing out every week with a program like that, which is a brilliant program because it has you working at like 90% of your max and the percentage is off of that. So we're looking, okay, what'd you get 200 for last cycle? This many. Okay, we got to get more this round. Things of that nature where your strength's going up. But then as far as agility and speed, and I always explain this to parents, those are just a function of strength. It's how much force can you apply into the ground to break and then to start quickly again. Jumping and sprinting straight ahead. And these are functions of how much force you can apply to the ground. So there's a really interesting book that really brought that to life for me was Underground Secrets to Running Faster. And his track coach who had like Allison Felix. She was an Olympic sprinter.
Yep.
He had her in high school. But all he did with these guys was he would deadlift. That was it, max deadlift. Because he knew just getting how much force they can. And I've tested that even on endurance athletes. You can shave a lot of time off your marathon races, which we've helped people do just to get stronger in the posterior. So once you understand that strength is really the basis, and then as far as being agile and things like that, the best thing you can do for that is play a sport. Play the sport that you play. We could run drills and all that, but we'll try to mix it up so it's chaotic where you don't know which way you're going to have to go. But nothing can, if it's pre-programmed, like a lot of these people do, like do the ladder, do this and that, and go this, it's not doing anything. Once you have your form down and you get stronger, then go play the sport. That's how you're going to get more agile and a better first step.
Makes sense. Yeah. So let's get into something you're famous for locally, should be nationally, maybe globally. Who knows? Fasting.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you my thoughts on fasting, and then you can enlighten us with your expertise. So
Sure.
because I like to be a little controversial. I mean, if you go to the doctor and he says, "Hey, you know what? You should fast more often. You should not eat as often. You should have less meals, raise your insulin less, and that'll help prevent injuries." Now, that would inevitably hurt the medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, and many more, right? So there's no money in the establishment telling you that you should fast. And that's one of my reasons that I realized, okay, like I should probably fast then. And I've noticed I still talk to people who are like-minded with us in terms of working out and mind, body, and spirit type of mindsets, but they can't even see like, you don't eat and you have this kinetic energy. You have this energy throughout the day and you have no food. You haven't even eaten yet. And you kind of eat yourself to sleep, so to speak. Like, how do you do that? So I guess my question for you is that the right way is there a right or wrong? Do you think that, is it better to, not eat during the day and then eat at night? Is it better to just eat a couple meals in the morning and that's it so that you can digest better at night? Like, I guess tell me your overall thoughts on fasting and the ins and outs.
Fasting is ancient and it's the most powerful healing mechanism known to man. It's a gift. You look, right? Jesus, right? Good Friday today. Jesus fasted 40 days in the desert. Buddha fasted. You look at Moses fasted. This has been around in religions forever. And it works. So with fasting, I don't believe anybody should be eating more than twice a day, unless it's an extreme situation where somebody's really got to pack on a lot of weight, like some of these strong men that have to take in 10,000 calories a day. And obviously, they're not going to do that in a meal or two. But if you're talking about 98% of the population, right, maybe 99%, I don't believe anybody should be eating more than once a day, to be honest with you. And if you look at the rhythm of the body, the ideal time to eat would be between like noon and 2 o'clock. If you just look at a circadian rhythm, that would be the ideal time. However, if you look at habits, right, look at mind map stuff, when are most people likely to form a habit if they're doing like a 1 meal a day? For most people, they come to me, they've got families, they've got this and that. Dinner usually is the best option because if they're eating their lunch and they're never eating with their family, or their wife wants to go out to eat, you can move it around and all that. So I recommend for most people, it's a dinner time meal is the number one meal. So fasting, it's a complete game changer. It really goes to work. There's so many different health benefits, but it goes to work on the body, but then the spirit, right? To me, it's once you get into it, you get so much more in tune with that stuff, your spirit and your mind and your thoughts around it. And it challenges you in a really good way. And it will never be, I don't think, in our lifetime, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think it'll be mainstream just because of the facts that you mentioned. And I believe there's a conspiracy against fasting, right? This used to be a very popular thing even a couple hundred years ago. Any animal, the way they heal themselves is they fast for however long they need to, and they heal. It's nature's, it's God's put it within us. This is a natural thing. When you're sick, right? You don't feel like eating, but we've been told you got to eat, you got to do this and that. And one of my brothers had asked me if it was was there disinformation against fasting? I said, they don't need to do disinformation with fasting like all the other stuff, because it's so deeply ingrained in people now that they should be eating multiple times a day, be eating a breakfast as soon as they wake up. And food's a drug. So most people are hooked on it. It doesn't matter. You can show them all the benefits of fasting. They're not going to buy it because they don't want to give up their comfort of eating whenever they want to eat.
Two most powerful drugs in America: food and caffeine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Anything that raises your hormones is a drug, right? So I was at a party one time and everyone's like, what drug couldn't you live without? And I was just like, food. Everyone was like, oh, these all their eyes lit up. Like, oh, you're right. Because those people, like, even my daughter had it was really good. It was a very well, like, it was about her mind and physical and all these things for health class. And it was, balanced diet. And it was like 9 things. I had her like put it in sets of 3. So she remembered it and it went really well. But one of them was breakfast every day. And I was like, Kyle's angry right now. I don't know where he is, but he's like, breakfast every day. Because I tried telling her that and she doesn't want to hear it. But it's a lead by example thing though. I'm like, hey, listen, I have a bunch of food the night before, and then I go out there and I lift at 6 a.m. and then I go play some basketball, and then I go maybe lift again, maybe go play some or I'll play a whole softball tournament. Everyone else is shoving down food all day. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I just have, the food from the night before. It's still in there. So tell me about the juice, because a quick story on the juice. All right. The juice is great, except if I have a swig of it before I go up to the plate in softball, I usually pop out. And I don't pop out that often, but it does happen because I get too jazzed up and then I just go for the homer rather than just try to hit a line drive. So tell me about the juice, because I explain it to people and I'm like, yo, that's your cheat code when you're fasting. I'm like, you can't fast. Like, I understand there's Ramadan and religion, Kyrie Irving, what he does. I'm not sure how much water he has. But the point is like, I need water and to keep my salt levels high. So I kind of describe the juice as like a natural organic Gatorade. So can you explain about what that is and how that helps?
Yeah, exactly. As you get in your sodium, potassium, those are your two main, every cell in your body's got a sodium, potassium pump that are constantly interchanging, but that's muscular contraction. It does a lot of other stuff too. But that's the idea behind Gatorade, except Gatorade is basically sweet sugar water. It's got a little bit of the electrolytes, not nearly enough, especially if you're working out hard and you're sweating a lot. But it's essential when you fast. And even if people aren't fasting, I tell them, you should be drinking, you should be upping your sodium. Like that's one of the, if you're looking at fat loss, if you're looking at health, you should be taking in more sodium. Another lie we've been told is to keep sodium low. Now, I was looking back at a fat loss manual I put together back 10 years ago, 2012. And I was talking about sodium in that, and the juice formula, I learned from a guy, Cole Robinson, who's real big into fasting. But I knew about, really jacking up the sodium. Even back then, I would use stuff like a lot of soy sauce, pickles, stuff I had learned from my coach, Scott Abel and whatnot. But it's essential. If people don't want to fast, that those are 2 things I would tell them as far as nutrition: get more sodium and eat more fruit. If you don't want to fast, do those 2 things. Start adding those 2 things in. Real simple.
Yeah, fruit. I've noticed that. Like last night, for instance, I didn't eat all day, and then I had a big meal, and I was like, "Yo, I should have had fruit an hour ago. It would have made me more hungry now." And it's a weird concept. It's like, wait, you should have had more food to be more hungry, but I hadn't eaten all day, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But it's like food engages your stomach and be like, "Hey, it's time to eat now. Let's stretch out and take some food in." Is that right? Is that
kind of? So you eat fruit, and it dictates when you fast the way we do. You go by your appetite, right? And it should be a feast, I believe. It should be a feast. And I don't have the book upstairs, but it's a book from 100 years ago. And I'm reading it for the first time, but it's the same stuff we talk about in the Panda. It should be a big meal. It should be fruit, it should be a lot of fruit within that. but it should be a significant size meal. So when you eat right and you haven't eaten all day, your hunger hormones are going to, like if you're anticipating eating, ghrelin is going to be released, your main hunger hormone. So that kind of actually kicks it off, the thought of food.
Yeah.
When you eat fruit, sometimes now, depending how close you ate to it, it's going to stretch, hit those stretch receptors in the stomach. So for a lot of people, it'll actually put the brakes on for them, because that's a big fear people have, is they're going to, I'm fasting, but I'm going to eat like crazy. First of all, no, you won't. You're not going to overeat in that meal. The people you'd have to watch overeating in that meal would be like people that are obese already. They're very insulin resistant, but those types of people should be fasting a lot longer. They should be fasting 3 days at a clip and then eating, and then fast 3 days and then eat. I mean, that's what I would do if I had 100 pounds to lose.
Right.
Then you heal that. So then even in that case, they're not going to overeat at that one meal. So you think of things along those nature, but yeah, when you eat, you basically have, for the appetite, before satiety starts kicking in, 15 to 20 minutes before it really hits your brain as far as, okay, I'm full. But now fasting, I found that you're much more conscious of your appetite and your hunger. Your hunger is more of a hormone. That's more of a hormonal thing going on within your body. And hunger is more emotional for most people. When they're really hungry, it's like, well, you could be hungry, but let's see what the appetite is, and let's see what you're doing with your eating plan to see if the hunger actually equates to you needing to eat.
Yeah, that's when I noticed it, because I remember you said something about hunger versus appetite. And it's like I'd hang out late watching my favorite basketball team about 5 years ago. My favorite player was Chris Paul, and he was on the Clippers. And I had to sit there and watch those games at 12:30 at night. Then they would start doing hack-a-shack to the center. And then I was like, dude, it's 1:30 at night, but I was hungry. So I was eating some cereal. I get to work the next day and I'm not hungry at all. No appetite. My stomach is full. I ate a lot. But then it's like, the grill closes at 10. I got to go get that omelet. And I would go and get that omelet. And then I would immediately be in the bathroom. So it was like, you had no appetite, but I was hungry. So it was a mental thing. And that's when, so I read you online. I was like, that clicked. It's like, I get it now, So sometimes you got to go through things yourself and a lot of walks of life to kind of figure that out. So next time we talk, we need to have, I know one of your mottos is feasting or fasting, right? I like that motto. So we should, I challenge you. I need 10 personal mottos from you. All right. I'm to do it myself. All right. 10 personal mottos. I can't take feasting or fasting. That's yours. I got to respect the source, but I'm trying to work on my mottos. But since you have that panda hat on, good advertisement, good product placement. I remember I read the book a couple years ago, and actually it might've been last year in 2021. And the funniest part I saw was the origin of breakfast. Can you talk about the origin of breakfast and how that became to be a phenomenon that it is?
Yeah, there's a couple, depending on what history you look at. But in Europe, go back a couple hundred years, and this is before unions, right, to protect workers' rights and whatnot. But sometimes these people will be out working in fields for 12, 14 hours, and they didn't get a break to eat. Right. And so the idea to sustain themselves was to let's eat before we go in. So that's one avenue of it. And then the other avenue of the modern breakfast was really, there's a couple interesting points. Children that had trouble with growth, but that's kind of a fallacy. And people that had muscle wasting disease. So they could try to eat more to try to keep some of their mass on. And if you look at Kellogg, I think it was, I can't remember what his first, Harvey Kellogg, I can't remember his first name, but Kellogg cereal. He actually developed his cereal to avert boys from masturbation and men from masturbation and for sexual purity. So there's a lot of weird stuff behind the actual
in the morning.
In the morning. And we are eating his breakfast in the morning, not meaning that people would be masturbating in the morning necessarily, but it was supposed to kill that desire. And then if you looked at Bernays, this guy Bernays got linked up, with the farmers or the Farmer Association of America, whatever. They wanted to really bring bacon into the equation. I forget exactly the reason why off the top of my head.
Because it tastes great.
Could be, but I know that wasn't the reason. But so he's involved with big food industry type stuff. So what they did is link up and started linking up. People already had in their heads that eggs were a great sort, and eggs are a great food. But then they started linking it with bacon, right? That this is the all-American breakfast. This is for health right here. But it was a lot of corruption going on with the bacon piece. Again, I have to look at it. I don't even have that in the book, but that's something that you could find if you look it up. So breakfast, and then it's become a giant marketing machine, right? It's like, we know why people think it's the most important meal of the day is because they told you it's the most important meal of the day. There's no research for that. There's nothing. I mean, when you break your fast, it's the most important meal of the day or the week. But that's it.
Yep. I know you said you played basketball in high school, right?
Yeah, I played all the way up. Yeah, through high school.
We still haven't played together, so we gotta make that happen soon. But I came up with something that I thought you'd find interesting. I came up with the 10 sports commandments. I started ways, because I love sports, and I always kind of thought, like, listen, you can have your guy in sports. Sports is ultimately, it does kind of drive culture sometimes, and it is, at the end of the day, it's still trivial. It's entertainment. It's fun. It's an escape. But I'm just kind of tired of the way that people have talked about sports, the way it's presented on TV. I do think, back to what we had started earlier, I do think certain people are put on TV to kind of like make our youth, who may not have the father figures in their life, kind of look up and talk sports like those guys do. And then we don't understand that because we're in our 30s. You know, you're 40, right? Like it may not affect me and you, but how do we know how it's going to affect people who are like 25 now? You know, and those are a lot of people who are driving sports conversations now, like just in our world. And I've kind of come up with these like commandments, like I don't name them all, but like, I'm like, number one, you got to admit your bias up front and own it. Like, own what team you root for, own what player you root for. Because until you can do that, you can't judge anything else. Yeah. Your confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance is going to take over unless you like figure out who you're rooting for and why you're rooting for them. You know, even new school versus old school. Like me and you we'll have a sports conversation some days, and it's like, we disagree. And it's like, yeah, it's because you're too old school. I'm like, I'm a blend. I love the old school. You know, I respect them, but I like, hey, some of these new school guys, we got to watch out, you know? So like, you know, admit your biases, and then you look at the video and the game film. Then you look at, you know, impact on winning and your intangibles, all the little things, you know, all the leadership stuff. Then the numbers, but not just numbers, the right numbers, the numbers that you can actually like see, not some fancy formulas, not some one-off thing. And then like your consistency, your longevity, your team context. And then we could talk about how many rings you got, how many MVPs, your awards, you know, because I just look at it, the game itself. So just so you know, that's what I'm trying to like build that brand as well, because I believe that's missing. And I think that making a dent in the sports conversation can help drive people to just be more rational about life. I don't know what you think about that, but
yes, great point. You know, and that goes down to all debating, I think, right? You know, people aren't taught how to do that. Like you said, I think that's a great idea, having the 10 sports commandments, but that should be something that, it could be like a lead magnet for you.
Yeah.
Because sports are great, because it does cause people to debate when they otherwise aren't debating much necessarily, a lot of people, or giving actual thought. But yeah, if they can get clarity on it, I think that's brilliant. And I think it could be a way, I think debating should be taught from a young age. Like, they don't have debate clubs, but not many people do them.
Like the right way. Like we're talking LeBron James against Michael Jordan. Okay. Don't just go, oh, well, LeBron was 4-6 in the finals and played this many years, and Jordan was 6-0 in the finals. It's like, that's surface level. I would have gotten all these different like measures first. I would talk about their teams, like what they do better on the court, leadership, their mindset. Like I have, again, I'm no stranger to saying how I feel. I think that, LeBron James didn't have the right father figures in his life early on. And I think it showed in a decision. I think it showed on the court. And I think once he locked into his zone, in 2012. He had a game 6 against the Boston Celtics. He had this look in his eye. There's still memes about it now. He locked in, and for those next 10 years, those next like 8-9 years, he was the second best player of all time. He does have an argument against Michael Jordan. I would still give it to Jordan, but LeBron's mindset before then, when he was in his athletic prime, wasn't that of Jordan. So like, I would talk about it in a way like that, where it's like, I got this here. My friend gave me this idea. I got a little gavel. All right. Talk about it like a court case. You keep your lawyers equal. All right. Me and you are lawyers. All right. You're on team Jordan. I'm on team LeBron. I feel like a traitor. Keep us equal and have an impartial jury. Who's got the better case? Yeah. And sometimes there's no answer. Who's better, Steph Curry or Oscar Robertson? There's no answer, and then people get mad about that. And again, it's trivial, but it's like, it's just sports. How are you going to handle real conversations in life if you can't even,
That's the problem with society now. Most people can't handle a real conversation. And there is. I mean, I asked you to one day. There is no final answer to it, but it's if your life is on the line, that's the easy way to me. Who are you taking in any of these?
That's one of my commandments.
Yeah, I mean that makes it pretty clear. Because I've had people tell me to LeBron, like my younger brother. All right, I give him the Space Jam scenario. Who are you taking? Jordan. Well, then you can't tell me LeBron's better than him. If it came down, because at the end of the day, right, and whatever it is, if you're talking politics, whatever, it's about winning, right? It's about winning, and that's leadership, and that's, and then you have the cultural impact of these guys, right? Like MJ still, I think, outsells everybody by a mile with his brand. People that never obviously saw him play.
Yeah.
You talk about a culture, but yeah, it's really cool, man, how you can use sports for that.
Yeah. That's funny. I saw LeBron. I know we got a couple minutes left, but LeBron, I saw him wearing a jersey with Jordan's logo on it. I was like, Jordan would never do that. And the next day, I saw they announced LeBron's got a new line coming out. I was like, all right, he must have heard me.
Yeah. But it was different. I mean, imagine Jordan, it's just crazy. The impact he had then, and that was without social media and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes there's a beauty to that. Like a beauty to like, you're able to be a legend when you're always not in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Social media has kind of robbed athletes and a lot of us of that in a certain way. Because they would just do it behind the scenes.
Yeah. Should be some intrigue and fascination and mystery. Right. That's the problem a lot of these athletes make. Point case, LeBron, he's always got a mic and he's always saying stupid stuff that he's not educated about. And that's the problem is people just want to see you play, right?
Yep.
People want to see you play and what you do on the court. And so they get caught in the trap too. Like with the debate about athletes, they caught in the trap of debating about stuff that you said. They don't have commandments. They don't know whys. Why do you feel that way? What are you thinking? Why do you think, this is the case? And they don't have intelligence. Like Kaepernick, right? He'll never get on and do a real debate or interview with somebody because he's not educated on any of the stuff he supposedly stands for.
Yeah. And I would give, and again, I have a lot of respect for Kaepernick, but I don't think he was the right man for that cause. That's not, I try to say like, listen, I'm a white man. I can't fully understand it, but if I was in that situation, I would go about it differently, and you're right. Anybody in politics and life, if you can't sit down and have a debate, just a nice, calm, civil debate, then I'm going to think that you don't have the right case. That you're going to take shots at me as a person because you don't agree with me or because I'm going counterculture against the narrative. Because that's another one of the things I stand on. It's like you go against the narrative and people take shots at you. Like, oh, you're even just sports. You're a fanboy. You're a stan. They're stealing Eminem's lyrics now. Like you're this, and it's like, no, I'm just giving you ideas, Yeah. Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah. So, all right, part 1 done. We will reconvene later. Kyle, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, that was fun, man. I'm excited to see what you do with the shows you got coming up.
Yeah, gonna have a wide cast of characters. So, all right, man. Peace.
All right, Michael. Have a great day, man.